years of strategic planning and policy reform, the Department of Transport, under the leadership of Minister Barbara Creecy, has reached a critical milestone in revitalizing the country's logistics backbone. You're watching Business Day TV. I am Nontobeko Kumete, currently at the official launch of the National Rail Master Plan for public consultation, and I get to speak to a variety of industry leaders on what this means for commuters, for the public and private sector, and the economy overall.
It's about building a resilient, adaptable, dynamic, scalable rail system. Really what this plan is intended is to give a long-term vision for the next 30 years of the developments that we want to bring about in the rail sector, so that we can coordinate the work of all rail agencies, but also, as you've heard, so that there is one central depository for information about the state of rail and the opportunities in rail in our country. And of course, we know that if we were to implement this plan in its entirety, it would, at today's prices, require a 2 trillion rand investment. Government will be a contributor over the next 30 years to that investment, but clearly the private sector will also be a major contributor. I think that what we know is that investors want confidence. They want to know that if they are going to invest significant amount of money in developing the rail infrastructure, that there is certainty across political terms. And I think that the purpose of the master plan is to say, in terms of a 30-year vision, this is where the country wants to go to with rail. This is how we see rail integrating with other modes of transport. This is where we think the major brownfield and greenfield developments need to be. And this is what we estimate these projects are going to cost at current day pricing.
This is a roadmap for our future and the future of every passenger who needs affordable, safe and dignified rail transport. As PRASA, we take our mandate with the seriousness it deserves. We are the primary provider of commuter and long-distance passenger rail in this country.
Today it marks the official start of public consultations on the National Rail Master Plan. So I just wanted to find out from you, why is it so important for South Africans?
This is a significant milestone, you are quite correct, where the draft National Rail Master Plan is being launched for consultation. What is critical about this, we now have a blueprint for rail for the medium to long term. This will assist us in terms of how do we want to modernize, expand and revitalize rail going forward. Critical to the National Rail Master Plan, as well as the National Rail Policy, is to ensure that rail becomes the backbone of an integrated public transport network. And therefore, the launch and the consultation that you will see following is critical for us to achieve that going forward.
You mentioned earlier that your department has reached 100 million passenger trips for the year, which is impressive. Can you just share, Uti, how this master plan aims to improve safety and reliability for all?
Those are crucial aspects for rail to succeed that you mentioned. So certainly when one looks at the issue of firstly security in terms of asset protection, our whole program of recovery, rebuild as well as modernization is underpinned by a security strategy, an integrated one, if I may add, where the first phase was to look at an increase in deploying physical security. We are now moving into phase 2, which is deployment of technology to assist us with security. And when it comes to safety, as you've mentioned, we need to ensure that our customers feel safe in the environment, be it at our stations, be it on our trains. And if you jump on any of our new trains that you see running on more than 90% of the corridors around the country, you will see we've deployed physical guards on these trains, number one. Number two, these trains are deployed with CCTV cameras, which monitors the activity on the trains. And you can already see by the passengers just the safety that they feel has been significant. I like to always comment on the fact that when you see that you've got your customers, including very young children, scholars, feeling free to take out their phones or their laptops working on our trains, it shows you that they feel safe operating on our trains.
Now, this draft rail master plan, it highlights the emphasis or the importance of people and not just heavy reliance on governments, everyone coming together in order to come up with solutions that will benefit all. But we also hear on public-private partnerships as well. So what role do you think they can play in improving the sector?
Yes, this process has started already. Maybe let me mention that at PRASA we've already looked at private sector participation a few years ago. But this has particularly been on our secondary mandate, where you see commercial developments around our stations. We've had very successful developments. The recent ones include Cape Town Station, as well as Braamfontein in Johannesburg, where we've built, together with the private sector, a number of beds for student accommodation. In Cape Town, 3,300 beds of student accommodation, 7,000 square meters of retail. Here in Braamfontein, over 700 beds, including retail opportunities. But moving forward in terms of what was mentioned in the National Rail Master Plan and the National Rail Policy, the Minister already launched in October last year a request for information to the private sector to look at various aspects within the passenger rail space. So be it on our depot modernization program, our ticketing systems that we want to roll out, our fiber assets that we have, as well as looking at our rolling stock capabilities, to look at how can the private sector partner with PRASA. That has been launched already. This year we should see further engagement happening on that. So certainly on that aspect there are exciting times within engagement with the private sector on certain opportunities.
From a safety regulator perspective, what are some of the non-negotiable safety priorities that have been mentioned and embedded in the rail master plan?
Well, the main one is we need to achieve the rail recovery safely. We want to recover, but we are striving for achieving a safe recovery. So what I mean by that is that as we transition towards running more trains to transport passengers and transport, goods, we need to ensure that we do not increase, the exposure when it comes to safety incidents. Yes, the hazards are going to increase, opportunities for failure are going to increase. So there's going to be a lot of focus which will be driven both by the operators and infrastructure owners and the railway safety regulator as the regulator to regulate and also provide oversight to ensure that we achieve a safe recovery that does not injure people, and also that doesn't harm the environment and that does not damage our infrastructure and also the equipment that we are using. So non-negotiable is safety in the process to ensure that we don't increase the safety hazards. In fact, where they are increased, we need to make sure that they are mitigated so as not to cause harm to the people and the environment.
Now, what role does the railway safety regulator play in shaping and safeguarding this plan?
Well, the regulator is playing a key role here. So what we are doing as a regulator, we are going to be starting now that the draft National Rail Master Plan is out. So what we are going to be doing together with the Department of Transport is to sit down and look at all the aspects, especially when it comes to major initiatives that are looking at expanding the network and bringing more rolling stock, more equipment in the line. So we as a regulator, we are going to be ensuring that all of that is done in a safe manner by making sure that the standards are met, complied to, and also work towards ensuring that we can hold especially the new operators that are coming, because some of them have never operated in rail. So it is our role as a regulator to also, share with them what is it that they need to do to ensure that when they come into the network, they can operate those trains very, very safely. So we're going to be working very closely with all the stakeholders that are mentioned in the master plan.
Institutional mandates have at times overlapped or conflicted. while system-wide incentives have not consistently supported efficiency and sustainable growth.
Public-private partnerships have been spoken a lot, and you've seen the work also within this sector that they've done. But from your perspective, what role can private partnerships, or private investors rather, play in making sure that this plan sees fruition?
With regards to the private sector in terms of the triple Ps, my belief is that South Africa must actually try to relax the rules that they engage when they come to triple Ps and make it more viable and sustainable. So the role of the public sector in our environment will add quite much value, especially with regards to investment as the country is battling with funds, and then just making sure that the projects are implemented according to the plan and we achieve the intended outcomes with the support of the private sector.
As a business leader yourself and as a CEO, can you just share what are some of the risks or challenges that are associated with PPPs in rail?
The risks and challenges, it's basically from my head as I look at them, it's more on the government coming onto the party and honoring the agreements, and to make sure that rail is actually a long-term investment, so investors are not going to be there for one term, that the next minister will support their investment in the long term, and that the relationships are developed better. So the risk is more on political environment, rather than the relationships. That is the major risk I think that South Africa needs to manage and make sure that it achieves its objective. The other risk that is quite challenging, most of the infrastructure has been basically vandalized, and it is actually an ongoing activity. So the investors are basically discouraged or shy away from this because now our system or South African police or even national are not addressing it efficiently to make sure that they protect the very investment that the investors, especially outside South Africa, are bringing into the country. And lastly, it's the challenges that we have with the business forums that I think are coming in a very informal way and affecting the development and also the investment in the country. I think those things need to be managed quite well, and the risks must be managed such that we achieve the intended outcomes. I think I'm very interested, and I hope that is why we are invited at this meeting, and also looking at the level of investment for the order of 1.9 trillion, as they've actually highlighted at the meeting. We're looking forward in the rail sector to make input and try to make changes, especially in leveraging access to previously disadvantaged areas. I mean, I mentioned Soweto, the extension of Davidson, and taking into account the previous planning that was done by what we used to call the SARCC, which was actually quite advantageous and taking things forward. That must not be left behind, and we are always coming with new things and not finalizing the plans that we have already initiated long time ago. We must become like Chinese and go into the 100-year master plan, not a 5-year master plan, simply because the minister is going to change or something like that, yes.
While seeking to build an affordable and competitive rail system, the master plan translates the national rail policy approved by Cabinet into a practical phased investment and implementation program for both freight and passenger rail over the coming decades. That's it from me, Nontobeko. Stay tuned for more business programming after this.